guys, it's Vandiozo back again with another Card Fight Vanguard deck profile. I hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to Patreon, and let's get started. But first off, all of you go to subscribe to me, Spinning Blade, and Wandering Manda, and to our new Combine channel, Team Soul Burner, where we do Yu-Gi-Oh! And tournament fights. So, let's go ahead and get started with this deck. Before I start, I just want to say this is my favorite of all clans. It is not necessarily my favorite deck, because the three main grade 3s are missing if I were to call it my favorite deck. But either way, I still love this deck. It does have one of my favorite grade 3s, so I'm just going to roll with this, but I do love this deck, so you know, any of you who fights me in a tournament or wants to fight me in a tournament, know this will probably be the deck I use, if not the actual complete version. So it is Gold Paladin! Spring Breeze Messenger is our starting Vanguard. When rolled upon, it's your classic draw one. It's extremely okay for its thing. I'm going to be very excited in this episode because I've been waiting weeks to do this, and I finally have all the cards. So that was our starting Vanguard. So I run triggers differently than how most people are running them. If you guys have seen my other decks, I don't run draw PGs. In this case, I don't run it in this deck either. I run the following: 6 crits and 6 fronts. So I run Knight of Blue Skies Shannock for 2 of my crits, Knight of Forceful Fight Nals for 2 of my fronts, and then I run the classic Daunt to Gull for 4 of my fronts, and then Flame of Victory for 4 of my crits, because I like to use the old classic cards that I've been using since I've played Vanguard. Yeah, and then obviously for our heals we have Elixir Sommelier, because they just don't like giving us heals apparently. They can give us everything else, but they can't give us heals. So now on to our grade 1s. Nothing in this deck I would call useless. I would run every card in this deck at 4 copies if I could, but that would go over the 50 deck limit. But here's one of my favorite grade 1s in this deck, and a card that I just objectively chose to put at 3 because I just thought it'd be less useful than the others. Knight of Virtuous Intellect, Gunhild, 10k shield, 8k base, continuous rear guard and guardian circle, so it could be useful in guardian as well. If you have 1 or less hand cards, this unit gets plus 5k power and shield and intercept, and it can intercept from the back row. That has saved me in many practice games beforehand. Like, I've never played with this deck fully completed, but I used to play against my Dark Relics with this deck, and that card actually saved me from death by Dark Regulars a lot. So, Gunhild, really useful. Put it at 3 or 4 based on how you see if you decide to build this exact deck. It's your choice, really. I chose to put it at 3. 4 copies of PG, because I just chose to run a PG. Repulse Rod Angel. It's a PG obviously, so when placed, discard a hand card, and your opponent and your unit that was attacked cannot be hit to the end of battle. You can only have 4 on your decks, and when placed on Vanguard Circle, draw 1 and discard 1. So it's the new type of PG where, like, it can do something on Vanguard. It's not just like, frick, I messed up. Like, you could run the extra front triggers over in crits, but like, crap, I messed up. I have only the PG to ride. Well, you still get a bonus out of it because you can potentially draw into another. In fact, that has actually been the case the one time I had to do that. So it was actually pretty useful because I didn't lose a PG, and it kind of set me up a bit. So, you know, good PG to run if you decide not to run the draw PGs. Next up is 4 copies of the Little Battler Tron, 10k shield, 8k base. Rear guard circle auto. When placed, counterblast 1 and give it plus 5k to the end of the turn. So that can be useful because it can hit force numbers, and this deck's Appear calls a lot. So it can hit force numbers possibly, and it's only for the counterblast of 1. And this deck is semi-counterblast heavy, but not that bad. And then Vanguard or rear guard circle, the real reason why I run it, and why it's my favorite grade 1 in this deck. When its attack hits a Vanguard, if your Vanguard's grade is less than or equal to your opponent's, that is what's supposed to be stated on the card, but that's an errata. On the card, it actually says grade less than your opponent. It's supposed to be grade less than or equal to. Look at the top card of your deck and call it to rear guard. You can get more attacks, and if you call Tron, you give it plus 5k by counterblasting 1. And it's not once per turn, and it works on rear guard circle as well. So it can be used to get more attacks and a lot more. Like in the anime, I think when Tonimaru, I think his name was, did it in Shinamon arc, he either played a grade 2 or a grade 3 while he was at grade 1 because of that card. So that's really useful. Now into our grade 2s. This is the least useful grade 2, and I've decided that like immediately for many reasons. Well, because of the counterblast problem, but it could still be useful in some cases. Lapierre Shooter, 5k shield, 9k power, in hand. At the end of the battle that your grade 2 or greater Vanguard attacked, counterblast 1, call it from the hand to rear guard, and it gets plus 5k. So another reason why this deck's kind of counterblast heavy, but still useful because it can hit force numbers, it can do some damage, and it can get you more attacks, which is really useful, which is why I run 6 fronts, because, that could actually abuse so many things. Next up, 4 copies of a card that I chose to run an extra one of instead of using Lapierre Shooter at 4. You can flip-flop those two, like I said, if you want to build this exact deck. So it's Knight of Hard Work, Alanier. Not so sure if I said that right. I just like how I like the art and I like the foiling of the double rare. 5k shield, 9k base, auto rearguard circle. When it attacks, perform all the effects below according to the number of rearguards you called this turn. This is Go Paladin. You're going to guaranteedly get one of these skills off unless you just have no resources whatsoever. But that is okay chance to happen, but that would be at the end game. So 2 or more, it gets plus 5k to the end of the battle. And then 4 or more, it gets another plus 10k, so we can get plus 15k. And if you do at the end of the battle, put it into the soul. That one skill right there is why I run this. And if any of you paid attention to when Go Paladin first was released, you know why I said that. But you'll see later on when we get to one of our grade 3s, but this deck does have a soul problem to an extent, and I run it to fix that problem. That's why I run it at 4 instead of Lapierre Shooter. But like I said, you guys pick. Next up, our last grade 2, 4 copies of All Out Knight Alcinous. Honestly, I like his art the most out of all of them. It reminds me of just me if I was a knight and I had white hair. 5k shield, 9k base. Vanguard or Rearguard Circle auto. When it's placed, drop a hand card. If you do, look at 3 cards from the top of your deck. Call it to 1 to Rearguard that is graded less than or equal to your opponent's Vanguard. And then, it says equal to the opponent's Rearguard. I'm not sure if that's an errata or not, but it might be just Vanguard. I'll put something in there to remind you if it's not. And then put the rest at the bottom of your deck. So that could be useful. If it is only on Vanguard, then that can still be helpful. And if it's Rearguard included, if you're playing another gold deck, that's going to be really fun to abuse in so many ways than just one. But yeah, you get extra rear guards, and you can basically save hand for guarding to an extent, because even though you dropped a hand card. Now onto our grade 3s. 3 copies of Full Cavalier Dragon, the least useful grade 3 in this deck. This is actually the one great card in this deck I don't really give a crap about. So Imaginary Gift Excel, obviously, 12k base. Act Vanguard or Rearguard Circle once per turn, Soul Blast 1, look at the top card of your deck. Call it to Rearguard, and choose one of your Vanguards against plus 5k. So that can be helpful. It can get you an extra Rearguard just by Soul Blasting 1, and then your Vanguard can guarantee to hit force numbers this turn just by that one skill alone, which is why I do run it, because it can be useful, even though it doesn't really help towards the soul problem. In fact, it's not even the reason why we have a soul problem. It just is there for like a final turn thing. But yeah, it can be useful and helpful. Now on to the reason why we do have a soul problem. 4 copies of White Hair in the Moonlight Shadow, Paladin! So Imaginary Gift XL in hand. Well, I'm not going to go over that one yet. I'll explain the reason why we're in this problem in the first place second. So second ability is Auto Vanguard Circle. At the end of the battle that your rear guard attacked a Vanguard, counterblast 1, return it to your hand. So if you called a PG and you attacked with it, it may not hit, but you can still bring it back to your hand for the cost of Counterblast 1, so it can be really useful. And then its first skill, the reason why we have the Counterblast / Soul Blast problem in the first place. Hand. At the end of the battle that your rear guard attack hits a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 3, write it as stand, and this unit gets -1 drive to the end of the turn. So it's like Incandescent Lion Blood as well, the deck I wish I was building right now. But you have to Soul Blast 3 for it, which does put you out of soul problem, which is why I run Alanor. Because he can kind of refill the soul, and you do guaranteedly get a soul back from like when you reroad over it. And it can just get you an extra Excel gift, and I have gone to the point where a Lapierre Shooter combined with this thing is just really broken. That you can flip around with this deck as much as you want with those grade 3s. This grade 3 I don't suggest flopping around with, since this is what the deck this is the main card of the deck. The main Vanguard, and the card I've been waiting for until today. Great Silver Wolf, Garmore! Imaginary Gift, Oxel, a continuous Vanguard Circle. If you have 1 or less hand cards, all of your rear guards cannot be attacked, and they cannot be retired by your opponent's card abilities. So, they can't be killed, so if you have really important rear guards, if you have 1 or less hand cards and they just can't hit your Vanguard, then their turn is guaranteedly over, because they just can't touch anything. And they can't murder them by effect, so they can't go Berserk Dragon, kill, Kagro, immediate, just like wipe out everything. They can't. And then auto Vanguard Circle. When placed, counterblast 1, look at top 3 cards from your deck, call up to one of them, call one card from among them to Rearguard Circle, and put the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order you shall wish, and then 6 of units get plus 3k. So that's cool, because it can also give itself plus 3k, and it's just pumping the whole field up. So like the end of the game, if you ride it, you can get another Rearguard, and then you can just stack your field full of power, guaranteeing that almost every Rearguard in this unit can hit force numbers, and then just screw over your opponent. Plus, I just like the art, and this is why I just waited for this deck to come for like the longest time. And then finally, our Excel gifts. I run 6 copies of the Astral Art Imaginary Gift Excel 1. Reason why: 1, I just like how it looks, and then 2, Excel 2 is way more expensive in this art, and then 3, I just don't like any of the imaginary gifts, whatever they are, too, because I just feel like they're useless. I mean, there are decks I might run Excel 2 in, but that's the only imaginary gift version 2 I'd actually use. All the other ones suck. But yeah, so this was my deck. I hope you guys enjoy. You guys can change what you want about this and say what you want about this, but I honestly love this deck. I haven't tried it out yet since I've gotten it, but I feel confident that I'm gonna like it. It just feels so natural to me to be able to use a Gold Paladin deck finally in Standard. So I hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to Patreon. And don't forget to stand up your Vanguard.